The film commences with James Foster and his wife Em vacationing at a resort in the seaside country of Lithuania. They've recently flown in from the US. James, a struggling writer, is still reeling from the failure of his last book. Em, in contrast, hails from a wealthy family. Despite their recent marriage, their relationship is strained, prompting this trip to mend their bond. Lithuania is depicted as a poverty-stricken nation, with many of its inhabitants living below the poverty line. Consequently, the resort is heavily fortified to prevent locals from entering. However, one local manages to breach the barriers and causes a disturbance on his quad bike. The commotion catches James' attention, and upon his arrival at the scene, he encounters Gabby, a striking woman who strikes up a conversation. She confesses to being a devoted fan of his work, which surprises James, given the failure of his last book. Graciously, he thanks her and hints at an upcoming sequel in the works. Soon after, Gabby's husband Albin joins them, greeting James with a handshake and extending an invitation for the Fosters to join them for dinner that evening. The scene transitions to a dinner where all four individuals appear to be enjoying themselves. Gabby shares that she works as a minor actor, primarily in commercials, while Albin is an architect. When it's James's turn, he mentions his 6-year-long struggle with writer's block. He humorously notes that he's developed 6 abs during this unproductive period. He confesses to lacking inspiration for writing. In response, Albin suggests that Lithuania might be the place to rekindle James's creativity. Albin proposes they venture out to explore the city tomorrow. James expresses some hesitation due to the country's reputation for danger, with resort officials explicitly warning tourists to stay within the premises. However, Albin reassures him that it's safe, and they ultimately reach an agreement. The next morning, the four rent a car and, after some persuasion involving a bribe to the local guard, leave the resort grounds. They drive along the coastline, reaching a picturesque location. They park the car and enjoy a delightful time on the beach, sipping drinks and engaging in lively conversation about their lives. Amid this, James feels the need to relieve himself and steps away. Unexpectedly, as he does so, Gabby approaches him from behind, initiating a surprising and intimate encounter. To James's surprise, he doesn't resist, and the moment unfolds. Later, as night falls, the group decides it's time to depart. Since most of them are quite intoxicated, James takes on the responsibility of driving. On the journey back, they exchange insensitive jokes and discuss the grim situation in Lithuania. Regrettably, a distracted James accidentally hits a pedestrian. The latter dies on the spot, and this freaks the group out. Em suggests contacting the police, but Gabby advises her against it. She mentions that the cops in this country are very corrupt, and if they find out about this incident, they will surely kill everyone. Hearing this, the Fosters freak out even more, so they quickly drive back to the resort and go to sleep. The next morning, James is awakened by some loud knocks on the door. When he opens it, he finds some cops outside. They have somehow learned about the incident and are here to arrest the Fosters. After a while, James and Em are brought to the police station for interrogation. The latter is taken elsewhere, while James is confined in a shady-looking room. Then, Detective Thresh shows up and informs him that he killed an innocent farmer last night. According to the law, James will receive the death penalty. To make matters worse, the executioner will be none other than the farmer's son, who is only 9 years old. James breaks down in tears, saying he is too young to die. He continuously pleads that it was just an accident, and he didn't do it on purpose. Surprisingly, Detective Thresh reveals that there is another rule in this country, which will allow James to walk away a free man. As per the rule, he will have to pay a substantial amount of money. The government will then clone his body and give it the death penalty instead. The only stipulation is that James will have to watch execution. As expected, the latter chooses the second option and is led to an ATM. James takes out a lot of cash and gives it all to the detective. Following this, a bunch of prison employees begin taking his measurements. They then fit him with several weird devices and send him inside a room. There, James is instructed to get inside a pool, which is filled with a strange red liquid. As soon as he does so, he experiences numerous visions, which unsettle him deeply. The next thing he knows, he wakes up in a bed sweating profusely. Soon, his wife, Em, approaches him and reveals that his clone has been successfully made. She then leads him to the room, and James is taken aback when he sees his doppelganger. They look exactly the same, and the clone even has the memory of the original James, as well as the same huge balls. After a while, the execution process begins, and a lot of people are gathered to witness it. James and Em are also forced to watch as per the rules. Soon, the 9-year-old boy arrives in the room with eyes full of vengeance. He wastes no time and continuously stabs the helpless clone, who has been tied to a pole. M is horrified by the sight, but James seems to be eerily intrigued. That evening, the couple returns to their room and starts packing their belongings to leave this country. However, James suddenly realizes that his passport is missing. He searches the entire room, but fails to find it. Shortly after, he visits the receptionist and inquires if she has his passport. The woman answers with a no, but says that she can extend his stay by a week if he wants. James nods his head readily as if he wants to be here. Later, as he is walking back to his room, Gabby intercepts him. She apologizes for the entire incident and says that she wants to share something. James doesn't want to talk to her, but after a lot of insisting, he agrees. Following this, the two sit down and chat over a few drinks. Gabby reveals that several years ago, she and her husband came to this country for the first time. Albin was contracted to build an infinity pool in a hotel. However, one day, a freak accident took place which claimed the lives of two workers. Albin was immediately arrested on the charges of negligence, and this is when they got to know of the clone scheme. Gabby says that although it's a strange law, it can be a gift for rich people like them. She also reveals that many tourists come to Littleka only to get a glimpse of their clone. In the next scene, Gabby takes James to her villa where several Westerners like them are having a fun time. It turns out that they have formed a secret community where the members enjoy killing local people. They then pay the government a lot of money in exchange for their clone's execution. Albin appears to be an entire group of people who are trying to kill the local people, part of this community, as he was the first one who discovered the clone scheme. As of now, he is seen sitting with his mistress, but Gabby doesn't seem to care. This is because she too has the liberty of making out with other men, just like James. As the group engages in conversation, one of them proposes that they raise the stakes tonight. They then decide to infiltrate the resort owner's house and kill him brutally. Hearing all this, James is a bit shaken, as he considers the whole thing unethical. However, the group eventually convinces him by saying that they're only going to have some fun. When the clock strikes 12, they arrive at the mansion and ring the doorbell. The maid answers it, but she is immediately subdued. The group then rushes to the main floor and causes chaos. The poor owner was in the midst of a romantic session with his girlfriend, but now both of them have been tied up. After having some fun with them, Gabby hands James a gun and asks him to shoot the owner. However, he refuses to do so. Just then, the security guard shows up and fires at the group. Albin is shot in the leg, but before the guard can cause more damage, Gabby shoots him dead. During the chaos, the owner, his girlfriend, and the maid are also killed. In the aftermath, the group brings Albin back to the resort. An Indian dance show is being displayed, so most of the guests are outside. However, M notices the carnage and freaks out. No matter how hard James tries to console her, he fails. The next morning, the entire group is captured and brought to the police station. Soon, Detective Thresh approaches them and says that they have crossed the line this time. As a consequence, they are going to be punished. The scene then cuts to the execution room, where the entire group is lined up and brutally killed. But then, the camera pans to the audience, and we learn that the original group is still alive. Turns out, they once again paid the government in exchange for their freedom. Later, James arrives home to find his wife ready to leave. She seems frightened and doesn't want to stay here anymore. Surprisingly, James doesn't even try to stop her and says, "Littleka is my home now." After she departs, she meets Gabby at the beach. The two chat for a while before she leads him to her room. There she gives him a local narcotic which he consumes. This makes him highly excited, and the two end up having passionate coitus. As the days pass, James becomes more integrated in the group and he seems to be enjoying life. He is also high most of the time as he has developed an addiction for the narcotic. One day, during a group meeting, one of the members suggests that they kidnap Detective Thresh and eliminate him. The rest of them agree to this without hesitation, including James. In the next scene, the group goes to the police station and forcibly kidnaps the detective. They then bring him to their villa and start mistreating him. James once again consumes the narcotic and goes crazy. He beats up the poor detective and even pees on him. The other members also follow suit and start urinating. Soon after, Gabby removes the detective's mask and James is shocked to discover that the man is none other than his clone. Feeling humiliated and upset, he quickly retreats to his room. He was voted most likely to pee on himself in his high school yearbook, but he didn't see how it was possible. James now realizes that the group is too dangerous to be around, so he retrieves his passport, which he had hid under the sink, and decides to leave the country. Later, he quietly boards a bus and makes his way to the airport. Unfortunately, the evil group finds out about this and follows him. They intercept the bus midway, and Gabby points a gun at James, forcing him to come out. She then makes him walk all the way to the resort while she follows him in her car. At an opportune moment, James tries to run away, but Gabby shoots and injures his leg. Nevertheless, he ventures deep into the forest until he loses consciousness due to the severe loss of blood. At this point, all hope seems to be lost, and it appears that James is going to die. But luckily, two good Samaritans spot him and bring him to their house. That night, James is plagued by horrifying nightmares, reliving the murders he's committed. These dreams also feature the farmer's son approaching him. He abruptly awakens to the sound of horns. Emerging from the house, he discovers the entire group waiting for him. Gabby steps forward and proposes a game that could determine his full acceptance into their group. The challenge is straightforward. He must kill a dog. A dog, led by a leash, is brought forward, only for James to realize it's his own clone, appearing drugged and aggressive. Frightened, James initially refuses to participate, expressing a desire to return home. However, when the clone attacks him, he has no option but to defend himself. Despite sustaining injuries, he ultimately beats his clone to a gruesome death. In the aftermath of this grim battle, James is left battered and traumatized. In a bizarre act, Gabby approaches him and smears the blood on her chest before proceeding to breastfeed him. The group packs up and departs for the airport as their vacation draws to a close. While they engage in conversation, James remains notably silent, still shocked by his harrowing Lidolka experience. At the airport, everyone boards their respective flights, but James remains in the waiting area. After a while, he takes a taxi back to the resort, perhaps overwhelmed by guilt or having developed a peculiar fondness for the country, making him reluctant to leave. The movie concludes with James by the beach, the rain pouring down, reflecting on the uncertainty of his future. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for watching.